Hello and welcome to the opening night of the 2025 Rick Steves Europe Festival of Tours. This evening, Rick will regale us with a history of our tour program and a look at the flagship Best of Europe itineraries. My name is Ben Green, and I will moderate tonight's presentation. Now, it is time to welcome our travel host, ready to share with us the Best of Europe flagship tours and more, Rick Steves. Hello, Rick, and happy opening night.
Ben, thank you. Happy opening night to you. I think I'm gonna start my little party here with some nice red wine. And we got a good crowd logging on here. And we've got a good crowd of people dreaming about going to Europe. We just opened our 2026 tour sales a couple of days ago. Already, I understand 3,000 people have signed up. I heard our Scandinavia tours are nearly sold out for 2026. We never know what's going to be hot. It's really interesting, isn't it? I want to remind you that this is just the kickoff of a 2-week festival, Monday through Friday. This week and next week, we're going to be charging right through Europe. And I'm going to do kind of a general talk tonight. But then the other nights are mostly regional with a focus on 7 different parts of Europe. And at each evening, we'll have one of our staffers who are our tour coordinators from our office here. We'll have Lisa, Cameron, Robin, Dave Herline, Gabe, Colleen Schaefer, and then they'll be paired with a guide who does these tours in the field. And our idea is just to enthuse about these places that we're so excited to show people and hope that you'll join us. As Ben mentioned, we'll be giving away a couple of tours. At the end of this evening, I'm going to have a chance for Q&A. And right now, I just want to jump right in and give you a little background on our tour program. Because our tour program has deep roots. And these roots are, these roots are like none other, I'll tell you that. So our roots go way back to our Europe through the gutter days. This was on my very first adventure beyond Europe. This was heading off on the hippie trail. I've been talking a lot about the hippie trail lately. I complained about this room to the man at the desk. I said, it's clear that you didn't change the sheets on this bed from the person who was here last night. And he said, I'm sorry. And he went to the room and he nicely turned the sheet over. So I had the clean side of the sheet to sleep on tonight. That's not like our tours. There are some pretty wild tours. And what I did on that very first trip was on the hippie trail. And look at that tour bus. I love this shot because it makes me feel like our tour buses are pretty luxurious. But this was the hippie trail. That's what all the backpackers were doing back when we were kids in the 60s and 70s when the Beatles were hanging out with the Maharishi Yoga. And I did that trip, but I didn't take a tour. I ad-libbed it with public transportation, like this beautiful bus here, with our chance to get out and get to know the world. But on that trip, I wrote a journal, and it's this book here. And I've been going all over the country talking about it, so I'm sort of in a hippie trail mood. But on that trip, I learned what makes good travels. And that still lives with us today. When I read through the 60,000 word journal, it's like an anthropological dig into a 23-year-old version of myself. And I remember the things we did to meet people and share smiles. It was just wonderful. I always remember also what it was like when there was not enough information. This is the bulletin board at the pudding shop in Istanbul that all the backpackers scrubbed through to see if there's anything helpful for them as they went behind the dark side of the moon, leaving Europe heading east from Istanbul. Well, I got home. I was so excited about teaching. I was a piano teacher. I gave my piano students away. I turned my piano recital hall into a lecture hall. And that was 1978. I started teaching travel instead of music. And man, oh man, has it been an amazing ride. This was the handbook for the class I taught the first quarter after I got back from India on that hippie trail, 1978, European travel cheap. I had the information, I wanted to share it. Look at our focus on experiences even back then. This is in my very crude days before I had an art team. I did my own art. And I made British Isles into a face, and Wales is actually saying, feel my fjords, caress my castles. That was me when I was a third of the age I am today, enthusing about the experiences of Europe. And that's what we're all about. Back then, I was wearing a t-shirt that says, I'm not a tourist, I live here. We want to be temporary locals. We want to go through the back door, where we catch Europe by surprise, where we catch Europe casual, where we're accepted not as part of the economy, but as part of the party. That's how we want to travel. And so many decades later, we're still doing it. And now we've got 60 different guidebooks that are helping people be inspired by our experience and do it on their own. And we know that you can do it on your own, or you can take a tour. I was just in Istanbul a week ago, 2 weeks ago, I guess now. And every time I'm going to Europe, I cross paths with our tour groups. Here's one of our groups. They're in Europe. They're in Turkey right now. I would imagine a lot of them still over there after their tour. And you can see the guy on the left. That's Mert. He's the guide. We have so many great Turkish guides. And I just like looking at the faces of the people that are immersed in these amazing cultures, thanks to the Rick Steves Tour program and the wonderful guides we put together. That's why we're so excited today to explain to you that we've got 1,200 tours for sale, 46 different itineraries, 150 amazing guides, most of them from Europe. Look at these guides. These are the people who love nothing more than to take our groups around Europe. And our buses are just happy zones. We like it because there's 2 seats almost for every traveler. We got maximum 28 people on a 50-seat bus. And we've got so many different itineraries. You'll see them there, and we'll be talking about them over the next 2 weeks. Of course, you can go to ricksteves.com and drill into any of these and see any of those itineraries, exactly what we're going to be doing with every day. But here is the schedule for this festival this year. Tonight, I'm kicking it off with the Best of Europe. Tomorrow, we're going to have a couple people talking about the basics of choosing a good tour and what makes a good tour. Then we're going to Britain, Italy, Germany, Spain, France, Central Europe, and then the best wow moments. So every night, 6 o'clock, Monday through Friday for the next 2 weeks, log on. Now, a year ago, or 2 years ago now, we did a massive 20-day event. And these are much more in-depth looks at individual countries. And they're on our website. So if you really want to go just to Scotland or just to Portugal or just to Sicily, you have a whole show, a whole hour or an hour and a half for each of them on our Festival of Europe events that are archived. And they're a couple years old, but that would give you a lot of information with a lot of great guides. You'll find that. You get a link to that when our Monday Night Travel crew sends you your email tomorrow. And there's a link to it right now in the chat section. And you can go to our website at ricksteves.com and find out the festival that is archived. Well, what we do is we find the magical places, little hill towns keeping their head above the flood of the 21st century, Riviera ports that somehow missed the modern boat. That's what I was doing back when I was a student. I collected all my favorites, put it into a book in 1980 called Europe Through the Back Door. And in the 40 years since then, I've been building on those magical moments. I mean, imagine walking on this ridge. Oh my goodness, high in the Alps. I did it when I was a student, and I did it 2 years ago, and the magic survives. I don't care if you're, what's the joke? If you're in your 20s, if you're in the 20s, in the 70s, or if you're in your 70s in the 20s, you can do this. This magic has no age limit. And we've got the new book out, Europe Through the Back Door, the 40th edition, for all the details. Now, along with teaching people how to go on your own, we like to offer tours. And that comes from my very first experiences. I used to escort groups on Cosmos tours. And back when I was a kid, I didn't have any money. I got 20 people to buy a Cosmos tour, and they'd give me a free trip, free airfare. And I got to go along as the escort on the bus. That was fun because I learned out a lot about leading people around Europe as a kid. And I also learned the reality of mass tourism and how we could do much better. 50 people on a 50-seat bus, I can't believe it. Having people scrimped and saved for their dream vacations. And they got over there, and here they are in Vienna, listening to a Strauss waltz being played by local musicians in a royal palace. Well, technically that's all true. But it's been turned into a cafeteria belt for tour groups to come and go unnoticed as retired musicians play the Blue Danube nonstop all day long. And it's just not as good as it could be. Most of these people go home thinking it was all right, but they don't know what they're missing. We can carbonate the experience. That's what I learned. I was taking these tours thinking there's got to be a better way. This was bland travel We needed to spice it up. So I thought, hey, I'll just do the driving and do the guiding and start selling tours. So I took for several years, I was just taking minibus tours, me driving and guiding with 8 people. The efficiency of group travel just really turned me on. I love the efficiency of group travel. 8 people sharing a vehicle, buying a picnic, having the picnic on the road to save time for more running around and free time, doing everybody's laundry at the same time. All the built-in beauty of group travel while maintaining the magic of independent travel. Right from the start, it was just girls that took my tours. I think it was probably because it wasn't because I charged guys more. I think it's because girls wanted to have an adventure, but they felt a little safer together on a minibus. Whatever the case, great travelers, wonderful times, and it became quite popular. In fact, we had reached the point where we just thought, no, we've got to get a bigger bus. Here we have a minibus straightening up the Leaning Tower of Pisa. And here we have a big bus still straightening up the Leaning Tower of Pisa. 20 people on a bus, why not? There was no way to grow unless we put out the big bus. And I think about it, back in the old days, I was the only guide. It was 8 people on a bus. They could do 4 tours a year. There'd be 32 people a year. Today, we have 150 guides. We have 46 tours. We have 1,200 departures. Last year, we took 33,000 Americans on our tours. Most of them were return customers. And I'll tell you, it is the most gratifying work. Way back, I had a manual like this. And I would leave it around in the lectures. This is the tour manual. I hope people would thumb through the book, the manual, and like what they saw and take the tour. Time and time again, they thumbed through the tour manual, like what they saw, and they stole the manual from me. They wanted to do it on their own. So I thought, okay, that makes sense. It should be available for sale. So the next year I took this is our 20 Europe in 3 weeks itinerary. It's what I'm going to be talking about later on in this evening. I took that tour manual and I put into it everything I knew about how to do these tours on your own without us as tour guides. And it was the manual for the tours, but it was also a do-it-yourself manual for doing Europe. And my publisher picked it up and this became a series. And all of these were the handbooks for the tours that we led. And all of these were designed so you could do our tours without us. The focus was on using your time smartly. That's fundamental. Arthur Fromer, bless his heart, he was all about saving your money. Europe on $5 a day. I'm all about saving your money too, but also your time is a precious and limited resources. And my 22-day books were about using your time smartly. Well, now we've adopted the 22-day title. We've still got the focus on using your time smartly, having maximum travel experiences for every mile, minute, and dollar on your precious vacation. And we've got a crew of 100 hardworking, mission-driven, wonderful colleagues here at Rick Steves Europe, helping us publish these books, produce and offer our TV series, and of course, put together our tour program. I like efficiency. I'm an independent traveler, and I feel very proud of our tours because I know that if you don't mind sharing the experience with 25 other people, you can, for about the same amount of money, experience 50% more per day and let somebody else do the driving. It's really quite a remarkably efficient way to go. And I'm just so committed to the efficiency of organized travel. And we run our buses like a tight ship. I mean, punctuality is critical. If you've been on one of our tours, you know we travel as efficiently with 24 people on a bus as people travel a family of 5. Everybody's on time. That's the only way you can do a tour. Everybody looks out for each other. Everybody listens carefully to the guide. The guide respects their time, and we enjoy the economy of sharing a bus. If you put 25 people under the bus, that's far cheaper than 25 people buying train tickets or renting cars. And that's how the tour company can be both viable and a good value. Since the very beginning, we were into anything we could do to make people thankful that they were on a tour instead of going independently. For instance, in the old days, before the euro and before ATM machines, it was a big deal changing money. You couldn't do anything until you crossed the border and went to a bank or a change desk and changed money. Well, we gave everybody a cash pack before getting on the bus. So if you're taking one of our tours, you got a $100 cash pack giving you $20 worth of paper money from 5 different countries. So when we crossed the border, everybody could function right from the get-go. That's an example of tapping into the efficiencies, the wonders, the beauties of organized travel. And we are masters of that now. From that very beginning, the way we run our tours these days, people just go, yeah, baby, I'm enjoying. I'm surfing on the top of a very efficient travel experience because Rick Steves Europe knows how to make it efficient. And we know it's never too late to have a happy childhood. We know that age only matters if you're a cheese. These are two slogans my groups taught me a long time ago when I was usually the youngest person on the bus. But we love to have young at heart people of all ages on our tours. So our tours are guided by tour managers. We call them tour guides, but in the business they're called tour managers. And then we have local guides in Europe that we meet up with. But I love the thought that our guides are teachers first. They are looking out for the needs of the group. They're in charge of putting together an efficient trip. Look at those wonderful faces. Look at those wonderful guides. I'll tell you, I am so thankful for the passion and the talent and the hard work of the guides that take our groups every year. And I get to meet them all the time. And they help us out all the time. We were just in Rome and we were just in Istanbul last month filming, making new TV shows. And our tour guides were right there helping us out. Next week, I'll be in Barcelona. After that, I'll be in Prague, and I'll be in London after that. And every day, I'll be connecting with these guides as they help me update the guidebooks and make the tours better and scout for scripts for our TV series. Every country in Europe, we've got them. We've got wonderful guides. And those are the guides that are with you from beginning to end, that meet you the first evening, give you your orientation walk, make sure everybody knows what time the bus is leaving in the morning, make sure everybody gets a room assignment, and so on. One thing that has changed a lot in our tours in the last 40 years is recognizing the value of our local guides. If you've been to Rome, maybe you know Francesca. If you do, you're a fortunate traveler. She's one of the best guides in Europe, I'll say. But Francesca is the kind of guide that we love to connect with and have take us around their slice of Europe. Here's Malcolm Miller, one of the most inspiring scholars you could ever imagine, a beautiful soul who's for decades been the shining light of Chartres Cathedral in France. And to have the honor to sit right there surrounded by the greatest Gothic glass in Europe and have Malcolm Miller tell you what it was like 800 years ago. That's something I'm very excited as a tour organizer to offer. When we go to Copenhagen, you're going to meet Hans Christian Andersen. Maybe not the real one, but a guy named Richard who loves to play Hans Christian Andersen, and he's enthralling. And that's an experience well worth $2 hours on any vacation. And when you're in Normandy, hopefully, you're going to meet Dale. I mean, Dale Booth really lives and breathes Normandy and the beach, the D-Day landings. And he's the man we want to connect with. So we tap into these local experts. Again, when we have the local experts, your guide, like if I'm guiding a tour of Venice and Elizabeth joins our group at the hotel to take us around, I hold the map while she does the teaching. We wrote the book, literally, on each of these countries in Europe. And when you take a Rick Steves tour, you get a copy of the book. And your guide expects you to have it because the guide relies on it, because we are teaching and inspiring our travelers to be independent travelers, as well as savvy travelers getting the most out of their tour experience. In other words, we expect people to have the book so that they can use the book smartly on their free time. You can see this time. I have cut the book up with a razor blade, stapled it together with industrial strength staples to make that book small. And with that, we can be packing lighter. I'm heading off in a couple of days. In 3 days, I'm heading off on a lecture tour and then going to Barcelona. But I'll have my Barcelona book, I'll have my Prague book, and I'll have my London book. And I'm in Prague for 4 days. I don't need the whole book. I'm going to be researching on these pages. So I cut it in half, and I've got this part with me. And I just really like to be traveling with the books, but light and mobile. One thing we really like to do with our tours is to orient and disperse. When we come into this little town where we stay on the Italian Riviera, Monterosso, we just arrived an hour earlier. We had a little downtime to settle into the hotel. Now, as a group, we're walking across the town to our restaurant for dinner. And the guide, in this case it's me, makes a 6-stop walk from the hotel to the restaurant, stopping here, stopping there, stopping here, there, and there, to give you the lay of the land, some context, some confidence. So after dinner or tomorrow when you got some free time, you'll be in command of how to get the most out of that experience. This is Alfio, one of our guides in Sicily. And Alfio is actually teaching me and the rest of the people on the tour. I just took this tour myself to be a participant. It's so much fun. And Alfio is teaching us how to bargain in the markets. And here's a guide teaching our group how to use the subway in Paris. We really want to have our groups get good with the public transit. We want to be temporary locals. I'm not a tourist, I live here. Well, these are the points that we work on with our annual summit. And every year we try to get together with our guides, every 18 months or so. And we fly them to Seattle. And we have roundtables. And we debate every day of every itinerary with the guides who do it. And these are long, drawn out sharing periods where we really, really have fun learning from last year's experience, sharing the lessons each of us learned from our wins and our mistakes, and then coordinating so the next year we have our act together from using our time smartly. Every tour, every guide has a tradition of writing out exactly what's going to happen the next day and posting it. And every hour is carefully figured out on a Rick Steves tour. It's really, really exciting when you've got 25 people to get the most out of every day and every hour. In the winter, lately, I've been meeting a group of people who want to be Rick Steves guides who are new. This is called our guide mentoring tour. And in a case like this, I think you could say all of these people are established, professional European tour guides. They work for other companies, but they want to work for our company. They want to be paid up front. They don't want to live off of tips, kickbacks on shopping, and commissions from selling optional sightseeing tours. That's demeaning to a tour guide. It puts you at odds with your clients, and it would make much more sense to charge what you should at the beginning and then pay your guides up front a very good wage and have no tips and have all the sightseeing included and have no kickbacks on shopping and let the guide then be the best friend of the people on the tour because the guide has made all the money up front. They can't make another penny and they're just there to celebrate their country and give people the best experience possible. This is drinking the Rick Steves tourism Kool-Aid. And these guides have to embrace our style of travel in order to be guides on our tour program. That's to a great degree because 50% of the people who take our tours are return travelers. Many, many people have been on 8 or 10 of our trips, 12 of our trips. Some have been on 20 of our trips. They know the standard of our guides. And they want last year's guide, but they know they're not going to get last year's guide because they're in a different country. And they know from their experience that the next guide will be just as great as the last guide. I'm so thankful for the caliber of guides that we're able to offer. And that's why I go to Italy in the winter. And I put 20 people on a tour. I'm the guide, and all these professional guides are the tourists. And I take them through the boot camp for being a Rick Steves tour guide. How do we calm anxiety? How do we give our history and art lessons the so what test? How do we incorporate group think to make being in a group a bonus instead of a problem? How do we orient and disperse so people should do what they should do together and have free time to do what their own interests will take them to? How do we talk politics in this complicated age? Lots of fine points of leading a tour, and our guides grapple with that. Addressing anxiety. How many miles are we going to go the day after tomorrow? Are tips included? Yes, you don't need a tip. What about this freeloader on our tour? Why is this guy? Well, we introduce the guy. We talk to them and they say, hey, he's just a traveler. He wants to take our tour for an hour here. I told him he has to stand in the back and not ask a lot of questions, but he's welcome. His name's Jerry. All right, now you took care of that anxiety. That's not a stranger anymore. He's a new friend. How long till the next rest stop? All of these things really help to be mindful as the tour guide. One thing I drill into my guides is that the more more understanding we bring to our sightseeing with our groups, the more rewarding that will be, the more memorable it will be. It's really important to give people context and to remember that cliches are all potential teaching moments. When you go to a windmill, sure, you're going to go to a windmill, but it's more than a photo op. This is how the Dutch prospered. This is how the Dutch employed their ingenuity centuries ago in a land that had almost no natural resources. All they had was wind. They harnessed that wind. And by turning that sail to harness that wind and then through a bunch of gears to turn that Archimedes screw at my feet there, they would pump the water from below, up and over the dike into the sea, draining all of that seabed and then turning it into lush and fertile farmland. And the Dutch would prosper. Wow. Now when you climb that creaking oak structure during a good stiff wind and those sails kick into gear, you go, yeah, those Dutch, oh baby, Archimedes screw. Hey, everybody should try a little bit of wild boar. You go to the butcher, you buy 25 slices and everybody gets one. If you're a vegetarian, you don't get one. You know, it's just, we're all in this together. I can't get a option for that. This is just one little thing, and everybody who wants to, everybody who can, enjoys it. And then we're on to the next experience. Every experience, everywhere you turn. To stand in the rubble of Rome, oh my goodness. And to be able to resurrect it, to explain to your groups, yes, Rome, it lasted 1,000 years, from 500 BC to 500 AD. It grew for 500 years, it peaked for 200 years, and it fell for 300 years. You are sitting on the rubble of Rome. And Rome at its peak no longer meant the city of Rome. It meant the entire civilized world. Anybody who spoke Latin or Greek within the walls of Rome, they were civilized. Everybody outside of those walls, barbarians. Rome. To tell stories of Rome with your group sitting on the rubble of a collapsed temple, 2,000 years old. That's good work. Museums can be exhausting. Just because a museum's big doesn't mean you got to see it all. Here's this shot I call the victim of the Louvre. With a good guide, you cut through the superlatives. You know the attention span of a group. How many Madonnas and children can you enjoy before you wouldn't get out of the bus to see a Raphael? You select the best and you explain it in a way that gives it meaning. And then the Louvre becomes rewarding. Before stepping into a Gothic cathedral, you teach your group how to make a Gothic cathedral out of tourists. It takes 13 tourists, 6 buttresses, 6 columns, and 1 spire. And the guide gets to explain the purpose of flying arches with the buttress, the purpose of pointed arches instead of round arches, to open up the windows so you can have the interior just filled with glorious stained glass light. Oh man, when their structure's all sturdy and in place, that spire hoists herself up and you have the essence of Gothic architecture. And then you step into a Gothic church like Sainte-Chapelle and you can see those columns, those pointed arches, those glorious windows, and it all makes sense. It all makes sense. When you see that aqueduct, you know with the Rick Steves guide that that's not just an aqueduct, that's the most scenic aqueduct in a 30-mile-long structure built by Romans 1,800 years ago to bring water into the city of Nîmes in the south of France. Wow, water flowing 30 miles in a man-made river on top. You can even walk through that river. Engineered so it loses 1 inch every 100 yards for 30 miles. That's a goosebumpy experience. We do talk about politics. Now, the standard conventional wisdom among tour guides and tour companies in Europe, don't talk about religion, don't talk about politics, and don't talk about soccer, because it just gets people riled up. I don't buy that. I don't require my guides to talk about politics, but I encourage them to think of a way to thoughtfully share their political realities. If you're tooling around Ireland and you come into one town and you don't see any Union Jacks, you see the Irish flag. In Northern Ireland, you're seeing the Irish flag and the Palestinian flag on the flagpole at the post office. Shouldn't somebody tell you what's going on here? Why do the Catholic communities in Northern Ireland, Ulster, ruled from London by Protestants, why do they have Palestinian flags next to the Irish Republic flag? And then you go to the Protestant town nearby, and you go into the fish and chip shop, and you see a Confederate flag in a town that flies the Union Jack. Well, think about it. You got settlers, you got minorities, you got hateful baggage from difficult times that they're trying to sort out. And one community flies the stars and bars, and the other one flies the Palestinian flag. Our guides can explain that, and they should. Crowds are another big challenge with travel. And it's getting crowded. I just got to tell you, it is getting crowded. And we work long and hard to figure out the best mix so our travelers can see the important things. This is tourists in the Raphael rooms in the Vatican Museum. We can see the great bits of Europe without getting crushed by the crowds. Half the battle is making reservations, which we do for our tours, and half the battle is visiting not when everybody's there, but in the off hours. We take our groups in when everybody else is leaving. Here we have the Acropolis in Athens. Everybody's leaving. That's when we go in. Makes so much more sense. It's cooler, and the whole place is ours. Why not? You know, you hear stories nowadays of touristy towns angry with so much tourism, over-tourism, noisy tourists stampeding through their towns. They're throwing tomatoes at tourists. They're squirting squirt guns at them. Well, yes, they're doing that, but not to all tourists. They're doing it to bad tourists. Bad tourism is the kind of tourism that stampedes in from a cruise ship or from a hotel hours away. And then they just run the town ragged. They see the famous sights. They buy a postcard. They leave garbage, and they get back on their bus or they get back on their cruise ship and go somewhere else. That's not appreciated. Our tourism, we spend a night. We buy dinner. We're thoughtful. We're high-minded. We're polite. We're considerate about the local customs. Our kind of tourism is not only favored, it's treasured by towns all over Europe. Routinely, I get invited into the mayor's office like this in Rothenburg, and they give me a thank you meeting. They give me an award. They give me gifts to take back to my staff because we're buttering the bread in that community with good tourism. A Rick Steves bus in Europe, even in a touristy town, is good tourism because Venice needs people to spend the night. Amsterdam needs people to spend the night. Bruges needs people to spend the night and buy dinner, and that's what we do. I think it's important when you think about taking a tour to think about what kind of people are you going to be sharing the bus with. We shape the clientele, frankly, by the standards that we set. We're not a shopping tour. We're all for one and one for all. You don't get special treatment if you're high maintenance. You get taken care of, but you don't get special treatment. You carry your own bags. It's not a shopping tour. It's not wrong to go on a shopping tour. It's not wrong to want somebody to carry your bag from the bus to your room, but we don't do it. That's what everybody does on their own. And that scares away a lot of people who tend to be high maintenance, and it leaves the people who are left wonderful people to travel with. I honestly enjoy the people that take our tours. So do our guides, and so do our tour members. You got to remember, you'll walk with your bags. You need to be mobile. This is Lisa with a tour that I took my family on a long time ago. And we are walking to the bus because the buses cannot go into the centers anymore. But we want to keep our groups in the centers and hotels in the center. Now, instead of traffic jams and honking horns, you hear the song of birds in the morning and bicycles, and people are on foot. The cost, you have to walk a few blocks to get to your bus because the bus can no longer get to the hotel. I'm okay with that because we've got groups that are mobile. Wheeled bag, carry it on your back, whatever's comfortable, but recognize that nobody takes a Rick Steves tour to start with more than a carry-on bag, 9 by 22 by 14 inches. Here, you can look at the people that I'm showing with these slides, and and better understand who takes our tours, because I'd be concerned about that. If I was going to take a cruise, for me, a Mediterranean cruise is two different experiences depending on the clientele. Who do I want to eat with? Who do I want to share the top deck with? Who do I want to wait in line with? Who do I want to pack into the tenders with? I want to be around people who travel like me, people who I respect and enjoy. The kind of people that take our tours are exactly that. I mentioned being mobile. Here we have 6 people from one of our Rick Steves tours, and leaving the bus in the Italian Riviera to get onto the train because we're sleeping in a town that the bus can't get to. And you got to take your bag and get on the train. Cinque Terre. And look, they've all got these cool little bags on wheels with their little day bags. The big bag you leave under the bus. You leave it at the hotel. You lock it up at the train station. Leave it on the cruise ship. Leave it in the back of your car, whatever. And you're out and about with the little bag. Right here, it looks like everybody thinks if they don't use a Rick Steves bag, they might not get a good room assignment. It's not the truth. You'll get a fine room assignment. But you'll be happy if you have one of these bags because they're designed for this kind of travel. This is the standard of our rooms. Nothing fancy, but certainly not roughing it. I just love the standard of rooms that we have in Europe. And we don't promise it, but virtually every night you get a private shower or bath and toilet. Most importantly, you get a small, family-run hotel, not a big chain, not a high-rise hotel. You get a hotel that knows your guide, that looks forward to the group, that is part of the family, that bends over backwards to make our guides' work easier so things go better. This is one of our hotels in Rome. I just love the folks at Hotel Lancelot, and we've been going there for 20 years. Ha! I just love it. This is Roberto. I've known him since my son Andy was on our shoulders. His daughter and my son were on both of our shoulders, and that was 30 years ago. And Robert is still welcoming our groups in Venice. As a proud hotelier, these people are part of our family. This is the Steiner family. 3 generations now. They've been serving our groups in Austria, in the Tyrol. Frau Steiner. Yes. And our buses with our wonderful bus drivers. Oh, I just love Hilda here. And we've got beautiful, safe, modern buses, wonderful professional drivers who know how to get us from town to town and city to city safely and smoothly and comfortably. The bus is our home. We take good care of it. And as I mentioned, you've got essentially 2 seats per person. There is plenty of room on the bus to stretch out. That's a beautiful thing. Think about it. Our tours are 24 to 28 people if they're full, and most of them are. And the buses are 50 seats. So you got lots of room to stretch around. Our guides use the bus as time well spent. We'll review the day's plan. Here's Tara explaining to her group what goes on day 4 on their Best of Germany, Austria, Switzerland tour. Looks like a fun day, Tara. And your guides love to feed the groups with the best local ingredients and cuisine. Life in Spain is too short to eat mediocre ham. You've got to go with a good ham. Jamón ibérico. I am a happy tour guide if I can buy a plate of ham and everybody gets to try a piece. It's quite expensive, but it's really, really good. Excuse me, I just want a moment with my ham. You can have a little sip of wine. Yeah. Ingredients. That's what makes European food so remarkable. And I think a good traveler knows that if they go to a good restaurant, you can know what month it is and where you are just by looking at the menu. That's what we strive for. Eat with the season and eat what's grown locally, a 0-kilometer meal. Signor Grammatico knows that. Here we are in Sicily, gathered around. What a feast, baby. This is my kind of group meal, I'll tell you. By this time, our group knows each other. We know a little bit about Sicilian culture, and we're visiting a beloved chef here who loves nothing more than to cook for American groups. But it's not mass tourism. This is boutique tourism. This is the discovery of one of our Sicilian guides, and our guides are great at finding beautiful experiences and sharing them. Here I am with Ben from our tour department, and this is a tour that Ben and I did together a few years ago, and it's on the Italian Riviera, and this is our chef at Ristorante Belvedere. And I asked the chef, do you have just a minute to come outside before our group goes in and tell us what we're going to be eating? To meet the chef, to honor the chef, to give the chef a round of applause, to let the chef explain what and why we're eating, and then to go inside and have the time of our lives for dinner. That's a good experience. I drill into my guides that the meals are critical. The meals, you are working if you're a guide during the meal because you got 25 people that are going to have a lifelong memory out of this dinner. We like to eat locally. Of course, when you're in the Netherlands, you'll try the herring. You'll get used to it. You won't have to get used to it, but you'll understand what the herring's all about, and you'll enjoy some great herring. When you're in Burgundy, you're going to try the escargot. You don't know if you like escargot if you've never tried it in France. You don't have to like it, but you got to try one. I just love buying a couple dozen escargot for one tour group. Everybody tries one. Tomorrow, half the people go, I'm never going to have another one. And half the people go, I'll have half a dozen for myself. Escargot in France. Now you know. Barnacles? Those are ugly. Barnacles in Portugal. Yeah, baby. Wash it down with local beer. It's Portuguese. In Scotland, our guides love with our drivers to plan a little Scottish festival of Scottish taste treats. And we pull over in a scenic spot and we have a little picnic, sampling all the traditional Scottish specialties. I've been talking about experiencing Europe, and that's, a good guide knows that that's how you carbonate the travel experience. You pack it with experiences. Everything can be a teaching moment in an unforgettable experience, or every possible opportunity to learn something and have a memory is embraced. My philosophy of travel I've just put together in a show that I'm very proud of. It's called Experiencing Europe. And it's airing all over the country now on public television. You can see it with your PBS app, or you can, you should know that you can go to ricksteves.com and go to school on our website. I mean, everything's free on our website in the way of information. You can see every TV show we've ever made, including our newest shows, our Portugal hour, our Poland hour, our Iceland hour, our new symphonic journey that's just from the Cincinnati Pops Orchestra. It's just out and it's playing all over the country, and you can watch it right now. Just go to ricksteves.com into the TV section, look under the specials and click on Symphonic Journey. And the teaching video is a 1-hour lecture made to feel like you're traveling in Europe because it's artfully filled with video clips, and it talks about my philosophy about travel, whether you're taking a tour or on your own. Don't miss Experiencing Europe. I'm going to take just a little time now, and I'm going to just think out loud with the help of some photographs of experiences that you can expect. And I don't know if you're going to Poland or Greece or Ireland or Norway or Portugal or Paris or the Alps with our tour, but these are just random experiences all over Europe, and these are the ways we fill your days. These are the ways we make people who decide to invest in a tour, after about 4 days, to remark to their travel partner, this is the way to go. Every day is stress-free. Every day is packed with adventures. Somebody else is doing the driving, doing the parking. I love the hotels, love the meals, love the people we're traveling with, and our guide walks on water, baby. It's so great when everything's going smooth. And tonight, it's the best flamenco in Sevilla. Wow. Oh, we're driving through a very famous little bit of forest in Northern Ireland, the Dark Hedges. And if you're into the Game of Thrones, why not stop the bus and let everybody get out and walk? I love to stop the bus and give those who want to get out and eat the wind a little option just to walk for 200 yards, and we'll meet the bus down the road. Hey, here's a friendly guy. He's all dressed up in his kilt with his fine bagpipes. Maybe I can learn just how it works with my group standing around. We've got friends all over Europe that are passionate about what they do. whether they're cooks or hoteliers, historians, musicians, you name it. This is Gerhard and Karen, and they run the Third Man Museum in Vienna. It's only open 1 day a week. They open especially for us. It's an amazing story, Vienna. It's an amazing movie, kind of a cult movie almost. But Vienna after World War II, Vienna in the late 1940s, with all the spies. Oh man, it's a great museum. And Gerhard and Karen show us around themselves. It's nice when we're in Haarlem and we're having our Indonesian dinner to know that after dinner, if you'd like, there's a pipe organ concert. Look at that pipe organ. Oh, to sit there in that marvelous church and hear that pipe organ. There's nothing like it. Absolutely nothing like it. It's free. It's just down the street from our hotel. Your guide knows what's happening and what's just around the corner. Tonight, the lasers are lighting up the Gothic Cathedral in Rouen. We're going to go after dinner and just sit in the park in front of the cathedral and watch the laser show. Your guide knows when this is happening. You're not going to be watching TV in your hotel room. You're going to be out lapping up Europe. Here, Nikki knows the Greek Orthodox priest. I think his name is actually Dionysius. And he asks us, do you know incense? Do you understand how we create a special sacred mood with the incense? And we get a whole lesson on incense. Or you could meet a Capuchin monk. I love nothing more than to make friends with a Capuchin monk and buy him a cup of coffee, which happens to be a cappuccino, named after his cowl. Just last week, we have groups in Sicily enjoying the procession of Holy Week leading up to Easter. This is in Sicily. Oh, I was right there with a group. And I just got an email from one of our guides that enjoyed this same exact procession. These are carried by men. You can see these guys in the foreground. There's like 20 guys under that float, trudging along as they have for centuries in that community, swaying, boom, 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 to the drum beat, boom, boom, and walking miles for hours through the town as everybody gathers. And we're there celebrating. Oktoberfest. Can we go to Oktoberfest tomorrow? We're driving right by Munich. Of course we can. Get up early, get in a little late, park the bus 2 blocks from the fairgrounds. Your guide takes you in, gives you an orientation, remembers where you're going to rendezvous, and you have your Oktoberfest experience. How about kayaking on the Dordogne River? Ha! That's a highlight. I'd like to do that again. Or it's a sunny day in the Swiss Alps. Why are we staying high in the Alps? Because you're already halfway up to the mountaintop. Sun comes out, you're there. Here's Ben orienting the group, and then they have the time of their life. So do I. Are we going to go over that bridge? Isn't that scary? Yeah, but we're going to do it. You don't have to do it, but you'll do it. We'll egg you on, and you'll be glad you did. There you go. Across the bridge from the ruined castle. The castle that's been in Rick's book for 40 years. That was in the very first edition, Ehrenberg Ruins. We go to there to this day. But now we know the architect who excavated the castle and has turned it into an amazing visit. And he had this hanging bridge built. There's so much that Europe has to offer. You're in Scotland? You don't need to go to the most famous games. You got little small town games all over the place. That's more fun. Park the bus, take a couple hours, check out the little girls doing their dancing. 675 was amazing. And then down the street, we know the farmer with the sheepdogs. I love to see the sheepdog demonstration. That dog rules the fields. And he bullies those sheep right where they're supposed to be according to the whistle of his master. And we happened to be there when there was babies. I never realized I would go gaga over baby sheepdogs, but I did. I almost smuggled one away in my coat. It was so sweet. Oh, I've got my favorite crystal glasses from Dingle. This is Chandelier, the Dingle Crystal Works, a famous crystal cutter who does beautiful work, and our groups can drop in. We go to these kind of little artisan celebrations and demonstrations and factories all over Europe. Our guides in France know what time the hunting dogs are fed at the local chateau. The nobleman loves his hunting, he loves his dogs. He got a pile of red meat dumped there. You see up above, I can hear the dogs yelping, but the master, he's got complete control. And those dogs only eat when he says, chow time, bam, everybody devours all that red meat. And we're right there witnessing it. Cooking? Well, we're going to cook, and then we're going to eat what we cook. I love our cooking experiences on these tours. Took me a while to really become a believer in cooking experiences, but I think it's very good use of group time. Certainly a good memory. And I've never done a cooking class where I didn't enjoy eating what we cooked. When I look at this map of France, I think, oh boy, heat wave. I'm not very good with Celsius, but I do know 82 is 28. If it's 28 degrees Celsius, it's 82. Just flip-flop it, 2882 in Fahrenheit. And for me, living in Seattle, that's plenty hot. When it's all in the 30s, you know it's in the 90s. And it's probably muggy. And that's just a fact of life. There's climate change. A lot of Americans don't seem to care. I can't say Americans don't believe it anymore. We believe in climate change, but we're just too greedy as a society to do anything about it. So we'll leave it even much worse for our grandchildren. Right now, Europe is getting its act together and they're moving forward without the United States. But in the last couple of months, we've decided, nope, we need to be richer. Screw the environment. Let's pull out of the climate accords. Let's bail out of every bit of leadership our great country is demonstrating. And let's just live right now while things heat up. A white elephant in the room among travelers is we contribute mightily to climate change with the carbon that we produce when we fly to Europe and back. As an ethical tour company, what we do is we pay for our carbon. It's nothing to brag about. It's nothing heroic. It's just baseline ethics. We should be taxed for our carbon. I make a lot of extra money it's a cost of goods sold that somebody should be charging me, but we don't believe in taxing for these kind of things in our country. It's just not good for business in the short term, but I think it'd be great for business in the long term. So to be ethical, what I do as the owner of this tour company is we have a self-imposed carbon tax. Scientists know it takes $30 invested smartly to mitigate the carbon we create when we fly from the United States to Europe and back. $30. I took 30,000 people to Europe on our tours last year. I made $1 million that I shouldn't have made. It's wrong. Actually, I didn't because I taxed myself that $1 million. $30 times 30,000 is 900,000. Round it up to $1 million. Develop a portfolio of 10 organizations working in the global south to help farmers do their work, employing climate-smart architecture or agricultural skills so that they can grow more food per acre while emitting less carbon. That is a beautiful thing. That is a low-hanging fruit of development aid, and that's something I'm so proud to be doing with our company. If you take a Rick Steves tour, your carbon for your flight is paid for. Every year, we spend $1 million divided between 10 organizations, most of them helping farmers in the global south do their work more productively while contributing less to climate change. That's what we look for. If you're curious about that, you can find it on our website. Just go to ricksteves.com/climate. Again, I'm not bragging about it. It's not heroic. That's just the beginning. We should be doing more, but we'll do more. But even individual travelers can make a difference. Anybody can look at our climate portfolio and donate $30 per person that you're taking to Europe and your family if you're not taking a tour. And you'll have the peace of mind of knowing that you are traveling in a carbon neutral way. Please, let's get serious about climate change because I want my little grandson to enjoy traveling in an inhabitable Europe. And the trajectory is not very good. Forgive me, but how on earth can you have a hat that says make this country great and then make our country small by taking American leadership out of the equation when it comes to the family of nations banding together to do something about climate change? It is well within our reach if we were just ethical and courageous and coordinated to stop climate change. But no, the United States is making it worse. Drill, baby, drill. You're still welcome on our tours, but you're going to be on a tour that is green as can be, and you're going to like it. By the way, if you know a tour company that is not doing this, let them know. As it says at the top line of this on my website, if you go to the climate check section, steal this program, don't credit us, and just start paying for your travelers' carbon. It's $30 per American going to Europe and back. Bridges. Look at this beautiful, beautiful bridge. What is the bridge an opposite of? A wall. There are walls and there are bridges. Every time I see a wall, I feel sad. Every time I see a bridge, I feel good. Walls are designed to make us safer. People think we're going to get safer when we hide behind walls, pull away from the rest of the world. No, that's not a way to make you safer. That's a way to make you less stable, less secure, more vulnerable. When we barricade ourselves behind walls, the rest of the world leaves us in the dust. And we bolster our walls. If you knew how to make your society stronger and safer, you would realize it's bridges, it's connecting with the rest of the world. If you knew what truly makes America great, you know it is the ideals of America. And these are resistant, and these are shining, and these are inspiring. Resistant against the antics, the agendas, the policies of any particular presidential administration. The ideals of America are there, whether we are there or not. Now, the ideals of America can grow, can prosper, can thrive if we're at the table for the other 96% of humanity. But when we vacate the table, things don't happen at that table until somebody comes in who can motor it. And when America pulls back, who fills the gap? China. What happens to the ideals that make America great? They are replaced by Chinese influence. And that's not the same as American ideals. Forgive this little political moment here, but when you travel, you grow to love bridges. You just love bridges. They bring people together. They inspire and lubricate trade. They make the world safer and more prosperous. When you think if you were designing the currency in Europe, you got 20 countries or something, all using the same currency. Each has its own president, each has its own national bird. Who's president? Whose natural bird are you going to put on the euro? It represents 20 countries. What can they decorate their money with? Bridges. It's perfect. Europe, their paper money, it's all about bridges. Travel, it's all about bridges. A peaceful future with nations working and living together, trading together, celebrating the differences on this planet instead of being so afraid of them. It's all about bridges. And we're making bridges when we travel. Okay, let me just give you a quick rundown on the itineraries. And yeah, doing pretty good with time here. Take about 10 minutes here just to review the itineraries that we're touching on tonight, and then we'll have a chance for some questions. Remember, if you have any questions, send them to the question section here on this webinar, and we'll try to get to them. Well, we're talking about two tours here. We're talking, well, three tours. There's the Best of Europe in 21 days, the Best of Europe in 14 days, and Family Europe from London to Amsterdam in 13 days. And they're all essentially the same thing. The Alps, France, and Italy, with a little Germany or the Low Countries or Holland or London tossed in. Now, this is the first tour that I ever did. This is the first minibus tour I did, starting in Amsterdam, making the big circle, finishing in Paris in I did it in 22 days. Now we do it in 21 days. If you look at this route, I like to look at those circles with little numbers in them. I do not like ones, I like twos. Occasionally you have to have a one, that means one night. But I do not like one night stands when it comes to tours. And I like 2 nights in a row because the first night you get oriented and the second night you feel like you're there. Much more comfortable. You have a stable, situated, wonderful, one whole day in a town with a guide to orchestrate your time and some free time and a couple of wonderful meals. And then you have a long day to get to another place, and then you have 2 nights in that spot and a whole day unobstructed. So here we start mild in the Netherlands, and we work into the challenge, Italy, Venice, Florence, Rome. That's pretty intense. By then, you're ready for a break. So you go to the Cinque Terre, lay on the beach. Then you go from the palm trees to the scalps of the Alps in one beautiful drive, and you have a couple days up in the Swiss Alps. Oh, baby, I love the Swiss Alps. Wonderful celebration near the end of a tour. And then you finish it off with the finale in Paris. That's a great plan for the best of Europe. Of course, it's just a sampler. Of course, it's ridiculously fast. But if you got 3 weeks in Europe and you want to do the most and you want to hit all the biggies, you cannot do better than this. And you'd be hard pressed to do this on your own. But when you look at this itinerary, Anne Frank, the Rhine River, the Night Watchman's Tour, the Doge's Palace, the Uffizi Gallery and Michelangelo's David, the Roman Forum, the top of the Schilthorn in Switzerland, the Louvre and the Orsay Gallery, all of the biggies are yours. And you've got a guide, you've got friends, and you've got somebody else that's doing the reserving of hotels, the reserving of the otherwise impossibly crowded sites, and parking your bus. It's a good itinerary. Heavy in Italy, that's my favorite country. 8 nights out of 22, 21 in Italy, 8 nights. It's open jaws. I like open jaws. Fly into one city and out of another. You don't spend the time and the money to get back to your starting point. You don't need to. You can fly into Amsterdam a little bit early and get over jet lag, have a good time there. Hang out a couple extra days in Paris. We don't spend a whole day of tour time at Versailles. You can do that the day after the tour is over. We got a guidebook. You get the guidebook with the tour. We got 60 audio free tours on my free audio app, and one of them is, of course, Versailles. Okay, if you got less time, less money, 2 weeks, you can do it. It's not a circle, it's a straight line. Start in Rome, finish in Paris. Rome, sample of Tuscany and Florence to see the art of the Renaissance. Venice, so much fun. Into the foothills of Bavaria, over to the best of the Swiss Alps, Lauterbrunnen Valley, what I've been celebrating all my career on TV and guidebooks and tours. A stop in the French countryside at Beaune, your escargot haven, with some beautiful red wine. And finish with the finale in Paris. Family tour, start in London, go to Paris, go to the French countryside, go to the Alps, go to the Riviera, Leaning Tower of Pisa, finish with Michelangelo in Florence. That's a great, great 13 days with the kids. Our tours are small, 24 to 28 people. So many tour companies have 40 or 50 people on a bus. It just can't be done the way we want to do it with more than 28 people. That's as many people as you can get into the kind of restaurants that we want to get into and the kind of hotels we want to stay at. We dominate the little restaurants and the little hotels that we stay in, and they're local style places rather than massing of a tour group in some giant hotel or mass tourism restaurant. You get all of the sightseeing included. You get a Rick Steves guide and local experts from beginning to end who are fully paid, best paid guides in Europe. You get accommodations in centrally located hotels. Boy, if you're taking another tour, read the fine print, read through the promotional material. They'll say you're sleeping in the Venice area. Venice area, that could be halfway to Bologna. And that's probably where it is. Hotels get much cheaper when you're in the middle of nowhere. They have to have the cheap price to attract the tourists. And then a bonus for that is you're stuck in the middle of nowhere. You got to pay the tour more money to take you into town. Well, no, we'd stay right in town anyways. You get them to take a walk before breakfast. And then we take you on a walk and a tour of that town with a local expert. All the breakfasts and many of the other meals are included. All the tips, so you know your driver's well taken care of and so on. And of course, a Rick Steves guidebook and a money belt. Do want to mention anybody booking a tour between now and July 7 for 2026, that's the early bird discount. It helps us to know how things are shaping up. Helps you to know you got a seat gathered. We just have, it's so exciting to be doing this tour in a way that fills up, and we fill up our tours every year. You get $100 off if you sign up. Hope that helps. And I do want to remind you, each of the next 8 nights, people are going to be invited to fill out a little form. I wish we didn't have to fill out the form, but you got to do it just to be legal to give something away like a tour. And then on the last night, we're going to draw a name. You don't have to be there to win. And we'll draw 2 winners. And each winner gets a free 1-week tour of wherever they want to go that we go on a 1-week tour. Paris, London, Rome, or Istanbul. Okay, let's do a quick review of this itinerary. We start in Amsterdam, city of canals. You can see the concentric canals there. It's just a wonderland to wander through those canals. And you'll meet the most famous people of Amsterdam: Anne Frank, Vincent van Gogh, Henry Hudson, and more. Then we drive to the Rhine River, and that's where we have these wonderful medieval castles and beautiful half-timbered towns. And we'll stay in a little town like this before driving over to Rothenburg, another beautifully preserved medieval town where we will have that higgly-piggly sort of experience. And to be there overnight is wonderful because all the groups are gone and the floodlit ramparts are yours to ramble. We love it when people join the Night Watchman. Every time I'm in Rothenburg, I take the Night Watchman's tour. His name is George, but of course he is the Night Watchman. He's so good. And then down to Salzburg. I love Salzburg, so did Mozart. And this is the main drag in Salzburg with all the cute little shops. On to Venice, the perfectly preserved fish-shaped island of Venice. We come in there like at the mouth. You can see that whole grand intestine winding through the city and dumping out at the Doge's Palace and St. Mark's Basilica. We stay right downtown, 5-minute walk from that tower. And you've got so many memories waiting for you in Venice. So many memories. 3 hours south, we get to Florence, cut in half by the Arno River with the Ponte Vecchio. And in Florence, you've got the architecture that kicked off the Renaissance. This was the ground zero of that cultural earthquake that ripped Europe out of the Middle Ages and introduced it to the modern age. It was a time of humanism. Leonardo da Vinci, Machiavelli, Dante, Michelangelo, so many great characters, all the class of 1500. Beautiful, beautiful paintings by Botticelli in the Uffizi Gallery. A guide's turn on is to take you into the academia and give you your context before you get to meet David. And then we go to Rome, the Eternal City. I was just there a couple weeks ago. It is amazing. And of course, you need local guides to sort out the complicated story of Rome. And Francesca and her team are always there. Here we have the building that gives you a feeling for the magnificence and the splendor of ancient Rome better than any other building, the Pantheon. I was just in Rome, as I mentioned. We were filming a TV show 3 weeks ago. I wouldn't really worry about the crowds in Rome or in Italy. I mean, it's always crowded, but there's plenty of ways to enjoy that city without the crowds. During Jubilee year, I would anticipate huge crowds at the Vatican. So that's the main thing. Where the pilgrims are going, there's 1 million people between you and where you want to go. But the rest of Rome is all just like a normal year. It's crowded, but it's doable. St. Peter's Basilica, all the beautiful night spots. It's cool. Then you need your vacation from your vacation. We drive up to the Italian Riviera, the Cinque Terre, the 5 villages. Here you can see a couple of them on the most rugged part of the Italian coastline. Can't even get your bus to some of these places. You got to leave the bus and take the train in. Vernazza. I love Vernazza. I'm going there on my vacation this summer. Vernazza. Where does Rick go on his vacation? Well, this year I'm going to Venice. I'm going hiking with my girlfriend in the Dolomites, the Alps of Italy. And then I'm going to go to Vernazza. Ooh, get excited thinking about it. Hiking from town to town. Enjoying beautiful, beautiful seafood. And then you can zip up into the Alps. This is our home in the Alps, Lauterbrunnen Valley. And we like to stay in a little town halfway up the mountain. And when the weather's good, we are out there hiking, enjoying it, having a time of our lives with the friendly cows. Stopping in Burgundy for our escargot, the town of Beaune, on the way into Paris. And of course, Paris on the Seine River is just a welcoming place. If you've never been to Paris, it is the capital of Europe. I was just there. We just made a 1-hour special on Paris. I can hardly wait to share that with our public through public broadcasting. And Paris just never gets old. It's one of those 4 cities that really does deserve a 1-week vacation on its own. Again, those cities are London, Rome, Paris, and Istanbul, the four greatest cities for tourism in Europe. To stay put for a whole week. There's the Louvre Museum with its wonderful IMP pyramid entry. And it's a city where you just go, wow. All right, so there you saw what we just did from the Netherlands, home basing in Haarlem, near Amsterdam, just half an hour from Amsterdam, down to the Rhine, Rothenburg, Salzburg, Venice, Florence, Rome, Cinque Terre for a little vacation from your vacation, up into the Alps, stopping in Provence in the country, or in Burgundy, the countryside of France, and finishing with a grand finale in Paris. That's the best 3 weeks, 3,000 miles the Europe has to offer. If you got to do it in 14 days, that's what I would recommend. Notice there, 2 nights in every stop except for one. There you go. Wow. Well, I was sort of in a groove there, just enjoying it myself, lost in all those images, lost in all those memories. I hope that you found it interesting. And Ben, I think it's time for another wine and some questions.
Rick, that was magnificent. You had me at Hamon.
Hamon, baby. Yep, I need some hamon. Oh, well.
Next time.
Yep.
We had a pierogi moment last week. We had a ham moment this week. We're on a roll.
Hey, nothing. Boy, every country's got its pierogi moment.
So true. Okay, we have a lot of questions. First one is from Liz and Sam. They are curious how Americans, Rick, are being perceived in Europe right now, and if the current political climate is impacting our tours at all.
Well, I was just over there for 3 weeks. I'm going again for a couple of weeks starting next week. And I was curious about the same thing, Ben and Liz and Sam. Europe is disappointed in America. Europe has had 4 years of Trump. And, you know, we're a free country. We can choose whoever we want to be our president. But the world looks to us for leadership. The world is a complicated place. You know, and if we have a president that says, you guys aren't paying your way, we're not going to help you out, just do it yourself, we're going to take care of ourselves first. We have every right to have that attitude, but nobody's going to be able to pick up the slack if we're not there. And the fact is, we cannot go it alone, and neither can freedom. So Europeans, they've had hard history. They know what hard history is. And they would love America to be at the table. Having said that, there are big slices of European countries that have the same political division we have. They've got people who would trade away their freedom and their democracy for more walls and a harder approach to immigrants. And you see demonstrations of the base of wannabe autocrats like Orban in Hungary and Erdogan in Turkey. So there's that same dynamic in Europe. So it's not really cut and dry. It's interesting. There's no reason not to go to Europe because of their political struggles and our political divisiveness. It's reality. There's one guidebook in America that outsells the Rick Steves guidebook to Italy, and that is the guidebook to Disney World. It outsells my book, and it doesn't surprise me because that's not reality travel, that's La La Land travel. And La La Land is a big market. More people will go to Vegas, Disney, Cancun, Caribbean cruise, back to Vegas, a little more Disney, over and over and over again. Nothing wrong with it. But if it becomes over and over and over again, and if that's your idea of travel, is just hanging out with other Americans in these well-worn touristic havens, that's a vacation, but you're not learning about the world. And it behooves us to learn about the world because we're part of the world and the world needs us. Will Americans be looked down on because of Trump? No, we won't. If you have Trump-like clenched fists, red hat, make America great, and America overall, we want to be first. If that's your attitude, you're not going to have a warm welcome in Europe, I'll tell you that. But whatever your politics, if you just lay low and are a friendly person, you'll have a friendly welcome. Europeans do not judge Americans for electing a president that they can hardly imagine is running our country, because they've done the same thing in their countries. They've all, not all, but so many countries in Europe have elected people who other people kind of go, really? So they know it can happen. Winston Churchill said democracy is the worst system except for all the others. And you got to put up with this. Europeans miss us, they want us, they appreciate us, they know they need us. And when we travel, unless you make them feel otherwise, you're welcome and they'll treat you friendly. Period. I had nothing but good vibes when I was in Europe over the last month.
Your take is very important, Rick. Thank you. What travel trends are you seeing for 2025?
Well, what's interesting is Italy is generally one of the most popular countries, and it's down this year. And I think it's down this year because there's a common wisdom that you don't want to go there during Jubilee or when it's really crowded with pilgrims. So people are cutting it some slack, are giving it a wide berth, and they're going to other places. I can understand that concern, but the fact is, there's parallel worlds, the pilgrims' world and the tourists' world. And it's crowded with pilgrims and it's crowded with tourists, but it's always crowded with tourists. So, you can go to Italy, but it is the disappointing country in Europe in 2025 for book sales and for tour sales. Still, a lot of people go there, but more people are going to Scotland and Ireland and Portugal is really hot. A lot of people are going to Scandinavia that didn't used to go to Scandinavia. We noticed our Scandinavia tours for 2026 are already nearly sold out. Part of that is because Scandinavia is a merciful place when it comes to the heat of summer. You find a lot of Italians in the summer up in Scandinavia.
Very true, Rick. You discussed the 21-day tour earlier, and that was my first tour. That was my introduction to Rick Steves. It's incredible. How has it stayed almost exactly the same over so many decades? What's the magic here?
Maybe people are afraid to counter my judgment on our staff. I don't know, Ben. It's funny because it is remarkable how it stayed the same. I think I was kind of joking there. I think it is what I did back on that. We held up that blue booklet there from 1978. I was 23 years old then, and it's almost there. We had to shave one day off of it because Americans don't have enough time and money to go on the long vacations like we used to. So we have to make the vacation shorter to accommodate the American vacation. But fundamentally, it's the perfect look at Europe. I got no problem with a blitz tour of Europe. I just think if you want to do Europe, just don't do more than what can be done reasonably, and assume you will return. Don't try to see everything in Amsterdam, or you go crazy. You'll be burned out by the time you get to Paris. But it's open jaws, which I love. It organizes things in a beautiful way, balancing rural and big city, big city, intense art, working up into Italy, time on the beach, time hiking in the mountains, grand finale in Paris. It's perfect. I always like to do tours where people can arrive early and stay late and have reason to arrive early and stay late. If you have a tour starting in, I won't say a certain place, but someplace that's not so interesting, if you got 2 days to kill before the tour meets, it's not time great, wonderfully spent. But if you got 2 free days in Amsterdam before our 21-day tour starts, or if you have 2 free days after the tour is over in Paris, it's great. It is great. And you need those times because we can't begin to do them justice in a blitz tour like the 21-day tour. Assume you will return. That's always very important. Assume you will return. Oh, but so we did the 22-day tour back in the 1970s. I drove it. Every year we'd fine tune it. We debate things, This year there's a change in the itineraries from Mad Ludwig's Castle and Fussen to Salzburg. And that's one of the biggest changes that has happened in a decade on that route. But we've decided that's a better use of people's time going to Salzburg instead of Mad King Ludwig's Castle. Probably because of the fact that there's funnels in Europe. Everybody's going to the most famous places, like a funnel. And you can only pack so many people into one gallery, one palace, one church, one castle. And Salzburg can absorb the crowds much better than Mad King Ludwig's Castle. So that's probably in an age when you got this, crowdsourcing and the Instagram effect and the TripAdvisor effect, where everybody goes to where everybody's going because everybody's going there. It becomes just a self-fulfilling prophecy of mob scenes of tourists. You have to courageously break away from that a little bit. And that's what we're working on. We're finding places that are alternatives to the places that are now getting crushed.
Well, I can certainly attest to the magic of that 21-day tour. I'm glad that the changes that there have been extremely thoughtful.
Thank you. Yeah, me too.
Marcus would like to know what tours you might like to add in the next 5 years and if there will ever be an Iceland tour.
You know, we're always thinking, should we have more tours? And we have 46 itineraries now. And I tell my staff my philosophy is I'd rather sell more of the existing tours than find new tours that we're not doing yet. I'm scraping the bottom is a little harsh, but in a way, if you look for another itinerary, it is scraping the bottom if it's not in the first 46 itineraries. So there's good tours out there still that we could be doing. But I would rather just figure out what are the bottlenecks and handle the demand we have for Portugal, for Scandinavia, for Scotland, for Sicily, for Greece, for Turkey, and so on. Those are great itineraries. And rather than doing another zone, I would rather say we've got the best, let's just sell more of the best and do it better. Having said that, I've always kind of dreamed of a Romania tour. It's like our Bulgaria tour. It wouldn't sell big, but it would sell good. I'm really thankful to have Poland and our Central Europe tours because I think it's really important for Americans to see Slavic Europe. Personally, I've had on my to-do list, literally, which always changes about what's to do and what I'm getting done. But I've had one thing on my to-do list longer than everything else, and that is work on the issues tour. I want to do a European issues tour, a political tour, spending 3 nights and 2 days in Copenhagen, Hamburg, Amsterdam, and Brussels. And each day, dive into issues with civic leaders in each town and not do all of the famous touristy stuff, but do what these countries are famous for in dealing with aging populations, in dealing with affordable health care, in dealing with refugees, in dealing with the rights of downtrodden minorities, dealing with infrastructure and taxation and democracy, and education and Alzheimer's and drug abuse and mass incarceration. These are very important issues that Europeans struggle with just like we do. And in a lot of ways, they've got it figured out more than we do. And we can compare notes. And I've been on junkets. I hate that word junkets, but I've been on educational tours for civic leaders where our mayor and our governor and our port commissioner and our congresspeople would go somewhere. And I got to go with them, whether it's Shanghai or Stockholm or El Salvador and Nicaragua. I got to go with these groups and learn a lot. And I'd like to do that for the issues tour of Europe. So that's my personal dream. Iceland? No, I just don't want to do Iceland. It's a great island. You don't need a tour. You got a good guidebook. And it's not my kind of country to do with a tour. You wouldn't get the full benefit of Rick Steves' tour in Iceland like you would in Portugal or Sicily. It's a nature tour, and you don't need to have everybody sipping out of the same soup bowl for a nature tour. Everybody can go there and rent a car and have the time of their life. So it would be good to do an Iceland tour, but it'd be really expensive, and it's just not our forte. Like Greek islands, I wouldn't do a Greek islands tour either. I'll do the Greek mainland. I'll do Scandinavia. Rather than Iceland, I'd rather do Norway, Sweden, and Denmark. And I know you'd like to do the Baltics. I think we should do the Baltics. That'd be a good one.
Oh, that would be great, Rick. I would be in heaven if we had a
Ah,
Helsinki and Baltics tour. But that issues tour is pressing, I think. That would be fantastic. I hope that comes to fruition.
yeah, I've got some good people that want to do it with me, and it's in my heart, and I think I'm going to pull that off in the next couple of years.
That's very exciting. Yeah, thanks, Rick. I'll just ask one more simple question. John wants to know, Rick, which itinerary is your favorite?
John, that's a good question. The best of Europe, the 22-day. It's the flagship itinerary. That's a really good one. The best of Italy. Italy's my favorite country. That's a good one. If you just want beef jerky of Italy thrills, The 10-day Venice, Florence, Rome tour is really, really good. If you want to be surprised by food, you can do the Sicily tour. Um, but the tour that I took every chance I got, if I had a loved one or a family member that I really wanted to have a travel experience, I took them on the Turkey tour. It's so important for Americans to get to know Islam. And the more I travel, the more I just recognize the value of people with their own culture, with their own faith, to actually use that as a springboard to getting to know people who have different world stories, different cultures, different faiths, because we're sharing this planet and it's a beautiful thing. And when you go to Islam, you become a much, much better citizen of the United States of America. And that's a whole nother lecture. Ben, thank you so much for all the work you and your team does with Monday Night Travel. You guys are going to be busy over the next 2 weeks. Every night this week and every weeknight next week, we got the Europe Rick Steves 2026 Tour Festival. And I want to thank each and every one of you for dreaming with us. We're working hard because we take it seriously that 30,000 people every year trust us for their vacations. And just between you and me, we do a great job. When I don't lead the tours anymore, I sign them up on them. I sign up on them. I love to take our tours, and I can dream about where I want to go next. I hope you're dreaming about travel, and I hope we're part of your travel dreams. Thanks very much. Happy travels, and hope to see you at the next Monday Night Travel Gathering.
Thank you, Rick. Good night, everyone. We look forward to having you join us for the future nights of the Festival of Tours. Good night, Rick. Good night, everyone.
Good night, Ben.